Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox Broadcasting. Check 1, 2. Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio, as always. Coming up a little bit later on the program, needless to say, we'll have a lot to talk about, but we'll also hear from Will Wesley. He is an up-and-coming country musician, and we'll be talking to him about his new single. That's a little bit later on. First, a comment after yesterday's show. It may have happened during the show, and I missed it, but I thought it was very nice. Thank the Sheriff Jim Allard, who was our guest yesterday, for a great interview. He's always very good at common sense. I couldn't agree more. I love when the sheriff can be on the program. And there's been so much going on in Steuben County that it's very helpful to hear it right from him to find out exactly what's going on. So thank you for the comment, and thank you to Sheriff Allard for being on the program yesterday. If you missed it, I did put a piece up on WYDC-TV.com that was about specifically the legal battle with Steuben County. So if you missed it, you can watch that clip and get a little bit of background information. Did you realize this? We're going to start off with some weird stories, some updates. We'll talk about Mayorkas. We'll talk we got a lot about Israel. A few things here about Trump. Did you realize that according to reviews.org, in a survey that was done in 2023, so the most recent update, Americans check their phones 144 times a day on average. Wow. 144. I have nothing to follow up on with that. Just something to keep in mind as you may be checking your phone right now. Hey, we have another update. This is not the super mayor. I want to be very clear. This is not the super mayor, but it's another example of perhaps why, not perhaps, it isn't another example of why you should always know who you're voting for. And I know we've had the conversation time and time again that it's very difficult to find out that information. That's why I think we have a unique situation here on Frankly Speaking, where we can have the candidates on and hear from them directly. So we're trying to do our best, but I know it is very difficult, and that's why you see the number on the bottom of your screen. If there's anybody you would like me to interview, candidate-wise, or maybe a local politician, just reach out. I can't guarantee it'll happen, but I would love to talk to as many candidates before November as we possibly could, or before the primary, depending on the race. But this is out of Washington, D.C. You know Mayor Muriel Bowser, the Washington, D.C. mayor. She's made the news a few times. Apparently, she traveled to the Masters golf tournament. I don't know if you're familiar with the cost to something like that and getting tickets, and it's not cheap. But if she wants to take a vacation and do that, that's no problem. But wait, as the commercials say, there's more. It was on the taxpayer's dime, writing off the expense as a business opportunity to, quote, promote sports and economic development in the nation's capital. Maybe they thought they could get the Masters from Augusta and move it right in the heart of Washington, D.C. The Masters is more than 500 miles from Washington, D.C. According to the mayor's public schedule, Bowser attended the world-renowned golf tournament as part of a sports and economic development visit. That works out really well. If you say, I want to develop more sports, recreation, and economic development in Washington, maybe I could go to the Super Bowl next year. A spokesperson confirmed that the airline flights to and from Augusta were paid with city funds, though the cost of the flights were not released. In a phone call Monday afternoon, Bowser's communications director, who I do not envy in this scenario, Suzanne Castillo, confirmed to the local outlet that Bowser was invited to the tournament by two people leading a new city task force. That sounds questionable too, right? Two people invited her to revitalize the Gallery Place and Chinatown neighborhood. Castillo said that whether it's here in the city or another country, the mayor is willing to advance administrative interests no matter the setting, including a golf tournament. Oh, I like the way they're trying to spin it, suggesting, she did not want to go to the Masters. But if it could do just a little bit of good for Washington, D.C., then it's all worth it. Just, again, something to keep in mind as you vote. I know it's Washington, D.C., but I think examples of that and the problems that we're seeing And you're saying Washington's bigger than my local town. I understand it, but local politics are the ones, politicians are the ones that directly affect your life the most. We talked about it numerous times, and I don't have to keep beating a dead horse there. But when those stories come to me, I like to pass them along to you. Okay, as an important update, NPR correspondent Yuri Berliner, who we've been talking about quite extensively for the last, probably a couple weeks now. He penned that essay, and most of the time this would be considered heroic, that he's a whistleblower exposing, maybe you could use the word corruption or at least bias in this outlet. But no, it is not being greeted that way because it's NPR, which even James Carville, if you recall not that long ago, was quoted as saying, we talked about it here on the program, and it had nothing to do with this. It was well before this news broke, but he said, I like to go to NPR to see the kind of snobby Democrat elites. Well, Yuri Berliner, who was suspended without pay after calling out the radio broadcaster's rampant liberal bias, resigned on Wednesday and took a parting shot at the controversial CEO. He tweeted, "I'm resigning from NPR, a great American institution where I have worked for 25 years. I respect the integrity of my colleagues and wish for NPR to thrive and do important journalism." But he added that he cannot work in a newsroom where I'm disparaged by a new CEO whose divisive views confirm the very problems at NPR I cite in my Free Press essay. Now, Berliner was referring to Catherine Mayer, the chief executive at NPR, who has come under fire for a series of woke social media posts in which she criticized Hillary Clinton for using the term boy and girl because it was, quote, erasing language for non-binary people. Yes, this is kind of the issue that Berliner was pointing to. That Catherine Mayer, the CEO of NPR, criticized Hillary Clinton for using the term boy and girl because it was, quote, erasing language for non-binary people. Mayer also appeared to justify looting in 2020 during the Black Lives Matter protests, saying it was, quote, hard to be mad about the destruction. And in 2018, she wrote a post denouncing then-President Donald Trump as a racist before deleting it. On Tuesday, NPR spokeswoman Isabel Laura said in a statement that Mayer was not working in journalism at the time and was exercising her First Amendment right to express herself like any other American citizen. I don't think anybody's criticizing the fact that she said that. It's just showing the bias that is now, according to Mr. Berliner, has now infiltrated the newsrooms. Now, the newsroom. I should say at NPR, this is not a news story. If you weren't aware of the liberal bias, then you've never tuned in. It's been a well-stated fact. Every few years, something comes up with public, whether NPR or PBS, public broadcasting, where they talk about cutting back funding because it has become so biased. So it's not a new necessarily information, but to have someone working at the organization coming out and saying, yes, it's as bad, if not worse, than you thought. There are no Republicans, no conservatives working for NPR. And why am I bringing this up? Because if it were a private business, let them try to make it with that kind of bias. But it isn't a private business. Your tax dollars are going to fund that bias. Berliner, for his part, Yuri Berliner, is a Peabody Award-winning journalist. He called out journalistic blind spots around major news events, including the origins of COVID-19, the war in Gaza, and the Hunter Biden laptop in that essay that we mentioned when it first came out. The essay was titled, if you never read the whole thing, "I've been at NPR for 25 years. Here's how we lost America's trust." Berliner said that among editorial staff at NPR's Washington, D.C. headquarters, he counted 87 registered Democrats and no Republicans. And he said, when I suggested we had a diversity problem with a score of 87 Democrats to 0 Republicans, the response wasn't hostile, it was worse. It was met with profound indifference. Mayer, who took up the role as CER of NPR in late March, responded to Berliner's essay by claiming that the veteran journalist was being profoundly disrespectful, hurtful, and demeaning to his colleagues. because he was highlighting the bias. You see that way you can twist it. Again, when we've learned so often that words are akin to violence, is what we've been told, that him calling out the bias in the newsroom is hurtful. It's almost like name calling to her. She didn't look at it as maybe we could do better. She accused Berliner of questioning whether our people are serving our mission with integrity, based on little more than the recognition of their identity. Now, you get the idea. I'm not going to keep going back and forth on all the bias and some of the issues that Berliner had, because he was very upset. Not upset, but he thought that the Hunter Biden laptop story, obviously a story, but there were so many stories that were buried or not used because they were not deemed, I guess you could say, liberal enough. Anyway, you get the idea. But early Berliner has resigned from NPR after that bombshell expose that really has caused many politicians and many people just in general to call for less, if not zero, funding from the taxpayers. Now, we have to take a short break. We've got a couple other updates. As I said, we're going to be talking with Will Wesley, just something different, on your Thursday morning. That's coming up a little bit in the 6 o'clock hour. I know this is the 6 o'clock hour. I just don't know exactly what time I'll be airing that. We have a few quick things about the New York State budget. We're not going to really focus on that too much. We do have a lot of examples of this anti-Semitism that's run amok on college campuses and now obviously elsewhere. A few things here about Israel, Mayorkas, maybe Mike Johnson, all that and much more. Feel free to weigh in at any time, and we'll be back. We're Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Isn't your wellness important? Don't you want more energy? Now's the best time to make every day better and relieve those achy muscles and pains than with the Hesselson's Hot Tub. Hesselson's has hot tubs in stock and available for immediate delivery with unbelievable savings. Hesselson's offers 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Hesselson's carries the only hot tub brand in the industry with the exclusive freshwater salt system that is eco-friendly and easy to use and only enhances your hot tubbing experience. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's hot tub. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Race drivers change lanes very fast, but with no outside mirrors. How come they don't crash? Introducing Angel View, the new wide-angle mirror that reduces blind spots. Angel View simply snaps over your car's rear view mirror, giving you a 160-degree view behind you. Just look at the difference. Look, ordinary rear view mirrors are small and flat, but Angel View has a huge mirror with curved glass. This convex shape allows you to see both blind spots with one glance. And with our Pro Edition special coating, it's anti-glare at night. Get your Angel View now for just $19.99. But wait, Angel View may be discontinued. Due to rising costs, Angel View is stopping manufacturing effective immediately. Once the current inventory is gone, it's gone forever. Order now.
Call 1-800-897-0371 or visit getangelview.com. Order now.
It's a season of Sherry.
Having a good time has always been my number one goal. I tend to get crazy. At my age, I should not be jumping up and down like that. And if you don't know what I mean, ask your mama. The young ones, y'all like, we don't know what you're talking about. But I promise you, in 30 years, you will.
It's the best time in daytime.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. on Big Fox.
Broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. This is Frankly Speaking. I wanted to ask you, the viewers, about this. I'm not sure if you saw, I don't know if you could even say it was the controversy But yesterday, obviously the big story, and we haven't talked about it on this program, but if you watch other outlets, it was Caitlin Clark going first pick of the WNBA. I'm going to be the first to admit I don't know a lot about the WNBA, but obviously I think everybody at this point knows the name Caitlin Clark. Well, the president weighed in on what some are deeming a controversy when he said women in sports continue to push new boundaries and inspire us all. Right now, we're seeing that even if you're the best, women are not paid their fair share. It's time that we give our daughters the same opportunities as our sons and ensure women are paid what they deserve. Now, this seems to come up pretty frequently, especially when there's a rising star, and they'll start to highlight the difference in pay for an NBA player in this case as compared to a WNBA player. Now, you can say, well, it's about maybe fan interest, that it's about ticket sales, et cetera, licensing rights to TV. But Kristen Fleming from the New York Post said something incredible happened this week, and I'm hoping that you'll weigh in on it. A whopping 2.45 million people watched the WNBA draft as University of Iowa shooting sensation Caitlin Clark, dressed in head-to-toe Prada, the only time the label has ever dressed an athlete for a basketball draft, was selected first overall by the Indiana Fever. Last year, an audience of about 500,000 tuned in. So that's nearly a 500% increase in viewers. And they all seemed shocked to learn the truth about WNBA salaries, especially a rookie on the WNBA. Despite her captivating play and her marketing prowess, Clark will only earn $338,056 over 4 years. So that's $76,535 annually. And if you look at the number one pick in the 2023 NBA draft, he will make $55 million for the same number of years. So outraged over the pay disparity bubbled up everywhere. It was on social media, morning television, the White House. They said on the Today Show, for somebody who is now the face of women's basketball, it seemed kind of ridiculous. That it was disturbing and like picking at an old scab for many women. They called the gap so jarring, we're talking about equal pay. That ain't even close. Joe Biden put aside his vanilla ice cream cone long enough to weigh in on Twitter with pandering platitudes, the likes of which we haven't seen since Kamala Harris foolishly claimed that women basketball players didn't get NCAA tournament brackets until 2022. Perhaps, and this is, again, Kristen Fleming. He said, perhaps Joe Biden can enlist his son Hunter to pull a few strings and land the league a Burisma sponsorship. But seriously, how do you define fair? And this is what the question boils down to. Instead of blaming the pay gap all on the evil forces of the patriarchy or inferring that women always get the short end of the stick, we should be asking questions about the sports landscape and how money flows from television deals and ticket sales. The league is a complicated business with a tough bottom line, not a charity dedicated to gender equality. According to Front Office Sports, the WNBA currently makes $60 million a season from its TV contracts, while the NBA makes $2.7 billion annually. If there's a large group of people and only one chicken in the pot, not everyone gets a hearty portion. You get what you get. And the WNBA, which was established in 1996, has traditionally not had a lot of chickens in the pot. And she goes through some stars and things like that. And, the time frame, the NBA has been around since the 40s, these type of things. If all these fans want to reward WNBA players, they need to invest. Attend the games. Watch the teams on TV. Buy the jerseys. Then maybe the league and the teams will make real money to reward athletes. So what is your thoughts? I know a lot of people followed it. Excuse me. A lot of people have been following her career, following it during the March Madness games. So just maybe a different take you're not hearing elsewhere from Kristen Fleming at the New York Post. Okay, when we come back, let me see. Yeah, we're going to do a couple quick stories because I do want to get to the New York State budget. We're going to hear, it's just a quick interview with Will Wesley, an up-and-coming country musician. That's coming up in just a little bit, so stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
At Simmons Rockwell Nissan, lease a brand new 2024 Nissan Rogue SV all-wheel drive for only $399 a month for 36 months. Make car buying simple. Drive your deal at Simmons Rockwell Nissan in Horse.
You rip and tear your old statements and bills, but thieves use this information to steal your identity. Don't be a victim. Get the ID Police, the new ink roller that encrypts all your old documents. So before you throw it out, just roll it on, and your information is gone, both on the front and through the back. Even if the paper is held up to the light, even your medical information is safe with the ID Police. So block it out before you throw it out. Order now and get your ID Police for as low as $9.99 and get free shipping too. This offer is not available on Amazon, so call or click now to get your ID Police for as low as $9.99 with free shipping. Order now.
Call 1-800-898-1002. That's 1-800-898-1002 or visit getidpolice.com. So call 1-800-898-1002. Order now.
Is this start of a dynasty?
Ryan Blaney is a NASCAR Cup Series champion.
A redemption tour?
Ready to go to work.
Is this the face of a ruthless competitor or a villain?
I'd be your favorite driver.
Is it time for a breakthrough?
Let's go!
To get back to breaking stuff? Or is this the makings of the wildest ride you'll ever witness? It's all of the above, and it's about to go down. Any questions?
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Hakem. Comment from a viewer. 12.4 million viewership for NBA Finals in 22. 412,000 for WNBA Finals. As viewership goes up, money will follow. And I think that's the point. Thank you, by the way. I think that's the point that Kristen Fleming was making, that it's more about the money opportunities on the back end than it is right now about what the players get. But of course, the president did weigh in on it, and that's why I mentioned it. There is a really good piece by Bill Barr at the New York Post this morning, and sometimes, like I said, I feel as if some people at the Post and elsewhere are watching Frankly Speaking. China must pay for its mass murder by fueling America's fentanyl overdose epidemic. The mass importation, listen to this, of Chinese fentanyl is slaughtering Americans at an annual rate equal to that of our bloodiest year in World War II. Now, he goes in to give kind of the history of why this is happening. Not necessarily why it's happening, but about the history of fentanyl. But simply put, without China's production and export of fentanyl and fentanyl precursors, there would be no fentanyl crisis. And I can't remember who said it, but there is no fentanyl on the street today that does not have some connection to China. But there's always been a question about the government's role in this, says Barr, not meaning our government, meaning China's government. Has this been an illicit business carried on by Chinese organized crime and corrupt businessmen, with the government simply reluctant to help stop what it sees as primarily an American problem? Or is this effectively an intentional program to wreak havoc in the United States, given support and encouragement by China and the CCP? Thanks to the Select Committee's trailblazing work, we have a much clearer picture. Its meticulous report presents details and convincing evidence that Beijing and the CCP are not bystanders. They're the prime movers behind fentanyl's mass importation into America. And this is very important. We've talked about this sort of warfare behind the scenes. We talked about potential hacking scenarios. We talked about China's wanting to be a world superpower and what that means. Of course, we've been talking about, and we just talked with former Congressman Tom Reed not that long ago about what that means for Taiwan in the near future, especially when we are showing weakness here in America, but I'll continue. Committee investigators found a hidden Chinese government website that offers complete tax rebates, incentivizing the export of all fentanyl, analogs, and precursors, as well as other synthetic narcotics, drugs illegal, keep that in mind, in China and America, and without a legitimate purpose. What conceivable basis could there be for the Chinese government to incentivize the production and export of these illegal drugs? Knowing they are bound for the United States, where they will kill more than 200 Americans a day. The committee also learned Beijing provides grants and awards to companies engaged in open and notorious synthetic narcotics manufacturing and drug trafficking. Now, this is about a 4-page piece, and I'm not going to go through all of it. We don't have the time. I'd highly recommend that you check it out for yourself in the New York Post. William Barr is a Hudson Institute Distinguished Fellow and author of the memoir One Damn Thing After Another. He served as U.S. Attorney General from 91 to 93, and then again in 2019 to 2020. And this is his, I don't know what's the word I want to use, his kind of recap of what we're dealing with China and fentanyl at a time when how often we have, just yesterday with Sheriff Jim Aller, but how many times do we talk with so many people on this program about the fentanyl epidemic, China is one of the most pervasive police states on the planet, he wraps up by saying. It has the capacity to shut down the production and export of illicit narcotics. But Beijing will not move to do so unless it understands there will be severe economic consequences, including sanctions, if it continues its complicity in the mass poisoning of American citizens. So just kind of, again, putting more into the pot here of when we're talking about the real serious threat of China, one that unfortunately in Washington they don't take seriously, and it all goes back to follow the money. But troubling, and also sadly not surprising that it has that connection, because as we've said numerous times on this program, there is no fentanyl that does not have some type of Chinese fingerprint on it. We've got to take a short break, because when we come back, we're going to talk with Will Wesley. Just a quick interview here. He's an up-and-coming country star, so I hope that you'll enjoy that. Then when we come back, a little bit about the New York State budget, quite a few things here about Israel. Congressman Nick Langworthy weighed in on the Mayorkas, so you can't really call it a trial. We'll talk about that as well. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox.
Attention, if you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and now have uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call now to see if you qualify. There's no fee unless we win your case.
Brighten your smile this spring with Watkins Glen and Elmira Family Dentistry. Their spring whitening special will give you a beautiful whitened smile without the gimmicks and hundreds of wasted dollars. Their licensed dental professionals will apply the product for you in one of their beautiful and relaxing offices. Their materials are made in the USA and are prescription strength to provide an unbelievable result in about an hour of your time. Give them a call to schedule your appointment.
Friends have been friends about Colonial Penn guaranteed acceptance whole life insurance for more than 50 years, and with good reason. If you're between the age of 50 and 85, it's a sure thing. Your acceptance is guaranteed because full benefits are not paid in the first 2 years. And the price? Options start at $9.95 a month, less than 35 cents a day. With Colonial Penn, your rate is another sure thing. It will never increase. And you should know this coverage can last a lifetime.
Call today, 1-800-475-1050.
Something with a diamond in it.
Diamondback rattlesnake.
It's in the name. Name a low-calorie food you might make your edible underwear out of.
Salmon.
Watch it weeknights. Share it the next day.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
Sharing the fun. Weeknights on Family Feud.
7 and 7:30 on Big Fox.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox, broadcasting from the Hesselson studio. I'd like to welcome our guest. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Hello, everybody out there. How's everybody doing?
I hope everybody's doing good because they're watching you on Frankly Speaking right now. So tell us a little bit about your music. For those that aren't familiar, what would you say your sound is?
You know, my sound is really just cut and dry, man. I'm really a country rocker. You know,
Yeah.
I've always been influenced by the classic country elements, but I've also been influenced by the modern country and rock and roll. So, you know, when you really get down to the Will Wesley sound, that's really the definition of it.
Have you always been into that kind of classic country southern rock sound yourself, or has it been a long process?
You know, I've always been into it. I started off in the blues world, you know, playing a lot of rhythm and blues and jazz and things like that. But, you know, growing up with my father being a musician, we were always listening to southern rock, classic country mostly. And, you know, as I grew, I began to develop more of a love for the modern country sound as well. So that's kind of all where the influences come from, a bit of the family and a bit of the influences.
And that was interesting when I was doing research about kind of your beginning in blues, because when you think about it, especially with classic country, they're so similar in so many ways, the original blues and the what you would call now, I guess, classic country.
Yeah, you know, it's really, to me, roots music, in my opinion. You know, it's really about the stories of the songs. And, you know, as they say, 3 chords of the truth.
Right.
You know, it's really about the story you're telling. And you're correct in that. Rhythm and blues and country both thrive on those aspects of, you know, the story and what these songs are about. So, yes, I couldn't agree more. I think it's definitely a similarity between the two.
Tell us about your new single, Ready to Ride. What goes in, before you tell us about the song specifically, what goes into the process of picking a song, writing a song, to someone like me who's never done that and probably never will?
You know, Ready to Ride is a little bit more of a modern take on our country rock sound.
Okay.
And what really goes into the writing process of this particular song was really just wanting to write something that everyone could relate to.
Okay.
You know, I feel like my job as a songwriter is to be universal and to speak to everyone. You know, whether you like this or you like that,
Sure.
I want to always like Will Wesley music.
Yeah.
So that really, you know, creating that perspective going into the songwriting process is really what I feel is what the lifeblood of the songwriting process is for me. You know, but, you know, this song was also, it was definitely a time in the making. You know, my manager, Mr. Brian Abrams, had gotten behind us to push this. This is the first of many singles, you know, and unfortunately we lost him last December. And it's been a process, you know, getting it out because, you know, his wife now, Yulia Abrams, is taken over and is doing the management for us. So it's been an interesting story, not only in the songwriting process, but getting this song to the people itself.
And have you found, mentioning the songwriting process, I'm always fascinated by, and I had him on the program not that long ago, but Whispering Bill Anderson, right? And you hear some of these classic names, and he can tell how he writes a song, a hit song, and then you talk to somebody else, it's a completely different process. There's no cut and dry how to write a perfect song, right? Is what I'm trying to say.
You know, if I can ever find out the formula to the perfect song, I think that I would market it and sell it in a book.
Yes.
You know, because I think the idea about it, man, is that everyone is an individual, and what makes songs different is the fact that they put their own individuality on the song. You know, so what might work for one person, may, like you said, entirely different for another. But in the end, it's really the thumbprint of the person that really makes the song what it is.
Now, do you find that you would rather record and be in the studio or be on the road?
I'm a bit of both. You know, like I love being on the road, man. Traveling is what has always driven me.
Yeah.
As an artist, I want to see different cultures. I want to see different places. You know, I want to go. But also, I have a strong love for the studio process too. I love seeing something start with an ingredient and conclude with just the finished product. That is just something that really appeals to my personality. So I'd have to say I have equal love for both the studio and the road, but I might nudge a little closer to the road.
Is that right? So, and you have quite an impressive tour list. I mean, you're out quite frequently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not home very much, man. We're always on the road somewhere. We're gearing up to be going back to Switzerland in June.
Oh, wow.
And potentially going back to Southeast Asia in November. We're going to be going to Bangkok.
My goodness.
Working on doing all that, you know. I mean, we're gearing up and starting rehearsals for that already. So it's going to be a very busy year between the press, the marketing, the singles, and touring. I'm going to have to tell my wife, just bear with me. Don't find a replacement.
Is it pretty difficult? I mean, you said you love being on the road. Is there that learning curve, though? Because it's all day, every day. It's not like you can just say, okay, today I'm going back home.
No. You know, and that is one of the learning curves that comes with being on the road, is the adaptation of it. You know, it's a funny story about that. When the conversation of blending home life with the road is, when I first met my wife, we were talking about how much I'm on the road and never home, to the point where finally I just came to her and said, look, babe, I'm going to hire you. You're going to work for me. We're going to go on the road.
Perfect.
I had to do that more or less to build my marriage on the road so much, man.
Well, it just seems, and I know they talk about the wild stories on the road, but I always think, you know, those are the things you hear about. You don't think of the kind of minutia, the day in and day out, the chores that we have to do back here are chores you have to do on the road too.
It is, man. You know, even hiring somebody to work the yard while I'm on the road, it's a little bit of a chore, you know.
Yeah.
But no, there is definitely, you know, we always see the glitz and glam of the road, but it definitely has its downside and its struggles too.
Of course.
You said, you spend a lot of time away from home. You spend a lot of time out there just trying to live a healthier lifestyle. You know, the older I get, the more I find that's very important.
Yeah.
You know, I used to just drink a fifth of Jack Daniels and let's party. But nowadays, you know, those things can catch up with you.
Sure.
So nowadays, I'm more or less trying to live a healthier lifestyle out there, eat right, exercise, that kind of stuff. And that can be challenging when you got to jump from this state to that state.
Oh, of course. And just time constraints and like that. When you're on the road, what album do you put on to listen to?
Well, you know, the album that has always defined what I always listen to is Hank Williams. I love Hank Williams and his stories, man. So my go-to is either Back to the Barrooms by Merle Haggard or Hank Williams' Greatest Hits. And now with Spotify, I can jump between those albums.
Right. It's not the old days of actually putting the album in, right? I mean, you can just...
Yeah, I wouldn't mind having an 8-track in the band just for the nostalgia.
Until you have to keep flipping around trying to find the perfect part for the song.
Yeah.
Spend half the day.
Think about it, scrap it. I'll stick with Spotify.
Yeah, exactly. Well, before we go, when did you know that you wanted to make this your living, that this is going to be your life?
You know, man, it hit me at 10, 11 years old.
Yeah.
My dad used to come in from these. I knew something was up because my dad would come in from these smoky bar rooms. He was a guitar player.
Oh, yeah.
And watching him come through the door, I always knew, wait a minute, man, he's been out doing something even as a kid.
Sure.
And just seeing that lifestyle at an early age, I really knew what I wanted to do the minute I was old enough to consider a future, and it was to be a guitar picker, a songwriter, and an entertainer. That's what I do.
It seems like if that's in your blood, you can't go to the kind of the 9 to 5 grind. I mean, that's such a different world than like someone like I live in, right?
It is, man. Like I've done that in my life.
Of course.
You know, I've been everything from a ditch digger to a tree cutter to a roofer, you know, just to make ends meet in the beginning.
Sure.
But it's funny, as I'm putting roofs on houses, I was always thinking about entertaining crowds.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah.
You know, that's all I ever thought about. You know, it's of course we as human beings have to make ends meet, but in the beginning, you know, but it's always just been dead set focused on that goal to be a touring artist and an entertainer. I love people and I love writing songs.
It's a perfect mix. Before we go, where's the best place to find out more and to hear Ready to Ride?
Everywhere, anywhere, and anywhere you want to look, man. Look, type in Will Wesley, and I promise you can't hide from me. I'm on any of your favorite online digital outlets from Spotify, Apple, etc. Man, just type in Will Wesley, Ready to Ride, and you'll see that in our other singles. I'm also on YouTube. I got a lot of interesting music videos out there if you're interested in that kind of stuff.
Perfect.
It's Will Wesley, they'll pop up. And also my website, willwesleymusic.com. You can find our tour dates and everything we got going on. And I want to see everybody out there. I want to grow and grow and grow with our fans. So haven't met you yet. Come meet me. I want to talk to you.
Well, we hope to see you in upstate New York one of these days, okay?
I'm coming.
All right. Thanks so much for doing this.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show.
Of course. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay with us.
Isn't your wellness important? Don't you want more energy? Now's the best time to make every day better and relieve those achy muscles and pains than with the Hesselsen's hot tub. Hesselsen's has hot tubs in stock and available for immediate delivery with unbelievable savings. Hesselsen's offers 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Hesselsen's carries the only hot tub brand in the industry with the exclusive freshwater salt system that is eco-friendly and easy to use and only enhances your hot tubbing experience. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselsen's hot tub. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselsen's.
It's a season of Sherry.
Having a good time has always been my number one goal. I tend to get crazy. At my age, I should not be jumping up and down like that. And if you don't know what I mean, ask your mama. The young ones, y'all like, we don't know what you're talking about. But I promise you, in 30 years, you will.
It's the best time in daytime.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. on Big Fox.
The Fox Sports app isn't just any sports app. It's your sports app. Yeah, yours. Your teams. Your highlights. Your scores. Your stories. Just choose your favorites to get more of what you want.
To the end zone!
And of course, stream your teams live. The best part is free with your pay TV subscription.
We are back with Frankly Speaking here on Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We're broadcasting live from the Hesselsen's studio, and thank you to Will Wesley for being on the program. So if you are just joining us earlier, I mentioned this piece by William Barr, that China must pay for its mass murder by fueling America's fentanyl overdose epidemic. We've received a couple comments from viewers. China is a very patient, calculating foe that takes a long view on power and control. Absolutely. We've had that discussion numerous times on this program, that it's not always about the quick wins. It's not very often. It's about the long game, and that's what we're seeing. And they believe that they have us. And to paraphrase what former Congressman Reed said, they believe they have us in checkmate. They believe that they have us at this point. Now, we've heard some very serious comments from Ray about the hacking capabilities and some of the things that we have there. Well, we'll go to the next comment. Communism uses weak leaders like Biden to their advantage. That's my fear, that I can't imagine they see it any other way, that if they wanted to take Taiwan, they could do so really at any time with no consequences. I think that's unfortunately where we're at. If we look at foreign policy coming from this administration, it has been a sign of weakness time and time again, or as we're seeing now, not just weakness on our behalf, but also on weakening our stance for our allies and going against our allies, which we could tie in with. Do I go to Israel now? Yeah, why don't we go to some Israel scenarios now? Maybe we'll get to the budget. I mean, we'll probably get to the budget at some point, but there's nothing really to get to. Just another extension. But let me go to, here it is. Lee Stefanik had a piece. It came out after we did the show yesterday, but it was the House will hold Columbia accountable for its campus anti-Semitism, and they did so yesterday. She kind of gives a history of what they've been doing in the House, and Lee Stefanik's star definitely rose even higher during those original hearings. Well, Columbia University president, and this will all tie in with Israel because we're just kind of going through what's happening here, as we talked about extensively yesterday, the protests that have led, and when I don't think protest is a strong enough word, but shutting down bridges and disrupting commutes. Columbia University president, her last name is Shafik, maybe, refused to tell lawmakers Wednesday whether from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free counts as an anti-Semitic phrase. Instead, only calling it hurtful and adding that she would prefer not to hear it around the Ivy League campus. Now, Representative Kevin Kiley from California said Professor Scheiser, which is the head of the anti-Semitism task force at Columbia, gave a very clear answer saying yes. So Shafik You, on the other hand, have hemmed and hawed and then eventually said, I hear them as such. Some people don't. I'm glad the professor was able to give us a clear answer, yes, but you weren't able to do so. And I think that if you're going to go through another number of racial slurs and ask you if those are offensive, if those are racist, I don't think you'd say, I hear them as such. Some people don't. Would you? That's a good point. Yeah, this is basically the transcript back and forth showing yet again this anti-Semitism on college campuses. And then we're not, but many are surprised at why are they shutting down bridges? Why is this trickling into the workforce? Because it happened at Google. It's happened at so many various outlets where people believe that that's the place to spew their anti-Semitism. And I'm not just talking about saying things like that you may say, well, that's very inappropriate. I'm talking chants of death to America, those type of things, death to Israel. We have went down a very weird place when in Dearborn, Michigan, there's protests saying death to America, death to Israel. Google did fire, though, I want to say this, 22 employees involved in a protest over their contract with Israel. Google has fired 28 employees over their participation in a 10-hour sit-in at the search giant's office in New York and Sunnyvale, California. This is one thing I've just got to say as a side note. I've been saying this for years, and I remember when we first started hearing about not just anti-Semitism, but just the constant woke kind of protests going on in college campuses. A lot of people would say, oh, wait till these kids grow up. They're going to be in for a rude awakening. And my fear at the time, and I was proven right, that it would trickle into the real world, that the businesses, organizations, government entities would end up caving, or caving would be the right word, to the demands of the young people. And remember where this all stems from. It is academia, where their professors, as we've seen time and time again, are encouraging this type of thing. So this is just another example of a 10-hour sit-in happening in the quote-unquote real world. But the pro-Palestinian staffers who had donned traditional Arab headscarves as they stormed and occupied the office of a top executive in California. This is their job. They are doing this at their workplace. They were terminated late Wednesday after an internal investigation. Google Vice President of Global Security Chris Rakow said, they took over office spaces, defaced our property, and physically impeded the work of other Googlers. That's what they call themselves, Googlers. Their behavior was unacceptable, extremely disruptive, and made coworkers feel threatened. Behavior like this has no place in our workplace, and we will not tolerate it. It clearly violates multiple policies that all employees must adhere to, including our code of conduct and policy on harassment, discrimination, retaliation, standards of conduct, and workplace concerns. They added that the company takes this extremely seriously, and we will continue to apply our longstanding policy to take actions against disruptive behavior up into including termination. Now, this is the exception. This is not commonplace because this is happening elsewhere. The fired staffers are affiliated with a group called No Tech for Apartheid, which has been critical of Google's response to the Israel-Hamas war. So this just all ties in with what we've been talking about extensively before October 7th, but really since October 7th, and what we see is this, and obviously we talk about it in the political world. Biden caving to the certain, I don't even think you can say fringe now, a certain part of the Democrat Party that is not pro-Israel, some would say anti-Israel, and he's scared that it'll cost him votes. So he has been weakening his stance on Israel, as you've seen. But thank goodness Netanyahu has not been listening to, for lack of a better term, Biden's suggestions, has not been changing his policy because of what Biden has told him. Netanyahu said, and Fox News calls it 9 chilling words. And I think chilling, I think powerful. Because what happened was Iran's president vowed to completely destroy Israel. And that's when Netanyahu said in a statement, Israel will do whatever it needs to defend itself. Israel will do whatever it needs to defend itself. The comment came after separate meetings with British Foreign Secretary David Cameron and German's Foreign Minister Baerbock. in Israel on Wednesday, during which the ministers discussed actions Israel could pursue to retaliate for Iran's unprecedented direct attack on Israel. And make no mistake, I know what the media has been trying to do and how to spin this. It was a serious attack. It was aimed to do as much damage to the civilian population as possible. Luckily, it just did not happen. It was the technology that we had and Israel and others had shot it down. But to have John Kirby say the other day that, well, they did kind of listen to Biden. Biden said don't, and they really didn't because it wasn't successful. But they have all sorts of suggestions and advice, and I appreciate that. But I want to be clear. Our decisions, we make ourselves, said Benjamin Netanyahu. What? That's at a time when you see, for political reasons, the weakening of our stance. It's so encouraging to see leadership saying they have all sorts of suggestions and advice. I appreciate that, but I want to be clear. Our decisions, we will make ourselves. I love it. It's just powerful. Gives you goosebumps. I got to take our last break of this hour. Keep those comments coming in. A couple little more things here about Israel, and then we'll wrap up this hour. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
You just have to get in the seat of a John Deere 3 Series tractor. Not because of the powerful implements, or because of our unmatched dealer support. Not even because it's in it for the long haul. You just have to get in the seat because being this efficient just feels good.
Right now, get 0% financing for 72 months on a John Deere 1, 2, or 3 Series compact tractor.
Getting real video for a commercial used to be extremely expensive, but not anymore. WYDC TV Big Fox now offers the Twin Tiers amazing aerial video for your business. We do it with our state-of-the-art drone and commercially licensed aerial pilot. Beautiful HD aerial video and pictures custom-made for your commercial. Call or email now to advertise on Big Fox TV and let everyone see your business in a whole new way.
Shell Missy face off in
Why can't we watch DuckTales? Because we don't learn anything.
Book Smarts versus Street Smarts.
Is it working? Are you feeling motivated? Very.
It's the battle of twins.
Life is so confusing. I always hoped it would be easier for me when I grew up. It's gonna be all right. You were faking. Bazinga.
Young Sheldon.
Weeknights at 6:30 on Big Fox.
Oh, we are back. Sorry. I was just looking at an article here. I'm Frank Acom. This is Frankly Speaking. You're watching Big Fox as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. Just to wrap up this discussion on Israel and to show you what I'm talking about with the mindset, I guess, of the Democrat Party today. Nancy Pelosi was on CNN Newsnight, and she said Netanyahu has to come around. And that's, again, why I love that Netanyahu essentially saying, hey, thanks for all the suggestions, everyone, but our decisions we will make on our own. But Pelosi, that knows more than Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu about Israel's safety, says Netanyahu has to come around. He has not been a peace-oriented person. I've always questioned that for decades now as to whether he was capable of peace, wanted to do peace, or was afraid of peace. And I feel so sad about what happened on October 7th. What a weak way of putting that. And I feel so sad about what happened on October 7th. It was brutal what Hamas, which is a terrorist organization, did in Israel. It was horrible. And the response that Israel has made is one that has serious humanitarian concerns. And so we'd like to see support for Israel to defend itself. That's in our interest for them to be secure in that dangerous neighborhood, but also for us to prevent starvation and famine and dehydration among children and families. What we have said in a letter to about a week or so ago was that there has to be an investigation of how that happened. And we shouldn't be giving any more weapons until that happens. And that's in reference to the strike, that accidental strike that killed World Central Kitchen workers. Now we're not going to give weapons to them. Now that Israelis are conducting, pardon me, an investigation, I myself think we have to go beyond that. I think there should be an independent investigation of how that happened. It was beyond the pale. But nonetheless, the letter we sent was very discreet in terms of you must investigate this because we need to know how this could have happened. So we're seeing this could be for votes as well. We're seeing this weakening on Israel. There's a piece, again, as we wrap up. How am I doing on time? A piece here by David Harsani at the New York Post that says, blame Barack Obama for Iran's attack on Israel and their bloody global price. And it's a really interesting piece, but basically it boils down to the notion that the Jewish state simply lashes out in revenge and doesn't rationally consider all of its options is preposterous. Whatever happened, it should be Israel's terms, not Iran's, despite what Obama's people demand. And he ties Obama with Biden, of course. And it's a very interesting piece. But going back to what I was saying with Nancy Pelosi and the Democrat Party, this all ties in together with what the picture is moving forward of what we're seeing, whether it be policy decisions or just the talking points that they're using. By the way, just as a weird way to end this conversation, did you see Biden confuse the Israeli city with Rafah? Don't move on Haifa. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but that's what he said. So I guess that's going to be his new thing. I don't know if that's polling well or something. That don't move on Haifa. Is that how you say it? Which is, I guess, the third largest city in Israel. President Biden on Tuesday confused the Israeli port city of Rafah with the last refugee for civilians in the Gaza Strip, Rafah, in a stunning blunder. I've been meeting with them, number one. Number two, I made it clear we have to vastly increase the amount of food, water, healthcare going into Gaza. And I made it clear to Israelis, don't move on Haifa. Biden then trailed off, seemingly losing his train of thought or any interest in elaborating on that point. It's just not, anyway, is how he ended that statement. All right, we are out of time for this hour, frankly speaking. 1 hour left together. We covered a lot already this morning. Thank you to Will Wesley for being our guest on the program. We are going to talk a little bit about Mayorkas and that scenario, a little bit about the New York State budget, a few things here about Trump, a few things about Biden. Feel free to weigh in at any time. You see the number on the bottom of your screen. I would love to hear from you about any of these topics. A great discussion going on about China and it's terrifying. They you could almost call it a chemical weapon with fentanyl coming across the border with direct ties to China. And as Bill Barr suggesting that China knows exactly what they're doing, but of course, as a country, there are politicians in Washington not taking it seriously. So we may talk a little bit more about that, but we got to take a break. Stay with us as we get ready to start our second hour here on Frankly Speaking on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Coons sit and sleep in Corning. Hey, did you know that Coons has been in business since 1955? Wow, that's going on 70 years. And did you know that Coons is still family owned and operated? Really? That's 3 generations. Way to go, Steve. Did you also know that their salespeople are non-commissioned and they offer delivery and financing? That's awesome. So why do they want you to shop and compare then? Because they are confident that you won't find a better deal.
Guaranteed.
Coons sit and sleep in Corning.
Shop and compare.
Your is always in danger. Criminals can hack your information without you even knowing. Introducing Slim Mint, an ultra-thin RFID blocking wallet that keeps your cards and cash protected. Slim Mint uses the latest RFID blocking technology to prevent thieves from stealing your info. It's ergonomically designed to optimize space and keep your belongings organized. With the auto-locking Slim Mint, your cards and money stay securely in place. It has a built-in cash clip and a flexible outer band to fit your additional cards and cash. Call or click now and get Slim Mint for just $29.99. Order in the next 5 minutes and you'll get an instant $10 discount. So it's only $19.99. But wait, due to rising costs, this may be your last chance to get Slim Mint at this low price. There's a strict limit of 3 Slim Mint wallets while supplies last. Don't wait, order now.
Call 1-800-654-6604. Call or visit slimmintwallet.com. So call 1-800-654-6604. Order now.
Hour 2 Frankly speaking, welcome as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. I am your host, Frank Aiken, and I'm so glad that you joined us this morning. So by now you've heard the Senate did kill the articles of impeachment against Mayorkas. It doesn't come as a surprise, and you can't even really say it's disappointing. It was expected. The Senate made short work of the articles of impeachment against Homeland Security and Mayorkas on Wednesday, ending the historic trial before it began in earnest, as the Democrat majority brushed aside GOP efforts to prolong the dead-end process, according to CNN. As we know, House Republicans voted to impeach Mayorkas back in February. There was less drama in the upper chamber, where the proceedings ended a few hours after they began, following votes, mostly along party lines, to declare unconstitutional the two articles of impeachment against Mayorkas. Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski was the lone Republican holdout, voting present on the first article. The blink and you missed it Senate trial marked the culmination of a mostly failed political gambit hatched by House Republicans. How do you like this, how CNN words it? To cast a limelight on the Biden administration's handling of the southern border ahead of the general election. Cast the limelight on it. I think this, again, shows you the media's bubble. Voters are concerned about the open, porous border. It is number one in voter concerns, even over the economy. That's in recent polls. And yet they're suggesting this is all smoke and mirrors. It's just Republicans putting the limelight on something that they think will hurt Biden come election time. No, it's about, well, this is a separate case, but Republicans would like to see a scenario where maybe the border is secured, where we don't have just an open, porous system. I don't even know if we could call it a system. We could talk about all of the negatives with it. Last week, we focused extensively on the very real, scary threat of terrorists crossing the border. But again, the way the media will spin it, in this case with Mayorkas, is that it's just Republicans trying to make a campaign issue. House GOP claims that Mayorkas, the first Latino and immigrant to hold a job, committed high crimes and misdemeanors, never passed muster with constitutional experts who said the evidence against him failed to clear that high bar. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer opened the proceedings by offering a time agreement to Republicans that would have allowed a certain amount of floor debate and votes on trial resolutions and points of order before an eventual vote to dismiss the case. But Republican Senator Eric Schmidt of Missouri objected, saying he would not agree to a proposal that would have concluded the matter with the unprecedented step of ending an impeachment case without a trial. Many Republicans wanted an agreement because it would have allowed them to make floor speeches targeting Democrats over the process and the situation at the border. Absent that, speeches would only have been allowed to those who got a not unanimous consent from their colleagues, an unlikely scenario given the political high stakes at the moment. Schumer then made a motion to table or kill the first impeachment article and yada, yada, yada. You get the idea. Now, again, not really surprised. Congressman Nick Langworthy, though, he weighed in on this, saying Congress has a constitutional responsibility to hold the executive branch accountable today. Today, all 51 Democrats in the Senate failed the American people. Secretary Mayorkas' dereliction of his duty to secure the southern border comes at the cost of American lives, from those murdered by criminals like Lake and Riley to those who were killed by deadly fentanyl. We cannot afford to allow Mayorkas to continue jeopardizing our national security as well as the health and safety of all Americans. I thought that was a very good statement from Congressman Nick Langworthy, so thank you very much. So we can talk more about that. Again, I guess, unfortunately, not surprised that was the case. So I guess there's not really, in my opinion, much to talk about there because we knew that there was no way Chuck Schumer and his fellow Democrats would allow any kind of hearing allowed to be persuaded in any way. And that's exactly what we see. Hey, let's talk quickly, very quickly, about the New York State budget. I'm going through a lot of things here at the top of the hour. I better slow down. What do you think? I know I've been hearing from a lot of people, but not necessarily on this program, about Mike Johnson and his chances moving forward. And this weekend is going to be a showdown on the foreign aid bills, I believe Saturday. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Did you see yesterday a cyber attack hit New York State politics? And they said it was like going back to the system they used back in 1994, it said. A late budget, an apparent cyber attack, and another budget extender is how New York State of Politics puts it. The New York State legislature still hasn't voted on a state budget, despite Hochul announcing the framework of a conceptual agreement on Monday, going back to Monday. So today's Thursday. Still no budget. If you would have just stepped aside, not know what was going on, and watched the press conference from Hochul, you would have thought there was actually a budget. And of course, there was a conceptual agreement. But if you remember yesterday, Hasty saying the pencils aren't quite down yet. We're not quite finished. The governor has acknowledged the details still need to be ironed out. I heard today, I don't have it in front of me, but the prison closures part of the budget is still in there, that's still a part of it, which is very discouraging. But anyway, there's details to be ironed out, but it is still not clear when the budget process will be wrapped up. State senators, meanwhile, told reporters as they left conference for the day that they plan to pass another budget extender today, bumping the budget deadline to the next week. And that's another thing that's just so comical in Albany. Last week, what did they vote on? Friday to move it to like Tuesday? I mean, why don't they give themselves a little time if they're just going to keep doing this? We're voting on another extender at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning, which means this morning, 11 o'clock this morning, and we'll see what happens after that. That's according to State Senate Finance Committee Chair Liz Kruger. Asked if she felt the timing of Hochul's announcement was appropriate given continued conversation, she responded with a question of her own. It was a confusing thing to do, don't you think? As I had mentioned when this first happened with Governor Hochul on Monday, it is somewhat of a tradition to have that almost, yeah, see, we got it, even though they didn't. I don't know if it's a way that they hope, when I say they, I mean Cuomo and Hochul, if they hope that it maybe helps push it across the finish line. If that's the case, if that was your hope, of course, that did not work. But it was confusing, that's for sure. State Senator Zalnor Miri attributed the delay in part to late conversations about mayoral control in New York City, finalizing a housing deal along with healthcare spending. Finalizing a housing deal seems to be what is the common trend, what we hear quite a bit, that's been a real sticking point back and forth. Though we did, if you recall, mention one issue, and we talked about it with Sheriff Allard yesterday, which is so frustrating, was about the penalties involved with if someone attacks a retail worker. So if someone attacks a retail worker, they could not agree on stricter penalties because, again, Carl Hasty saying that stricter penalties are not a deterrent. And I believe if you watched the program yesterday, you could see the matter-of-factness of how the sheriff put it, Sheriff Allard, saying that's just not true. How do you even respond to what Hasty said? It's just factually inaccurate. But I'll continue. This is, again, State Senator Zalnor Miri. He didn't comment on the governor's announcement, but speaking for the Senate, he contextualized the delay. The leader of my house has been consistent in what she has communicated to the public, that we want to get this budget right. We're going to take the time to get it right, and we're going to take the appropriate time to do that. Hochul called what is left to be finalized minor details and inside baseball. Now, it is all inside baseball because there's 3 people in a room working on this. 3 people are deciding what is a $237 billion New York State budget. We, the people of New York State, are not privy to those conversations. We're not allowed to know what's going on with our money. And we had that great piece the other day showing us the lack of bang for our buck when it comes to tax dollars and the sad state of affairs in New York with businesses leaving, not wanting to come here, people leaving, highest taxes, poorest economic ratings when it comes to bringing businesses in. And again, I know I keep tying it in because there's so many other issues as well, but when you look at something like shoplifting and the scourge of shoplifting. And it's amazing when you start to hear the numbers, and we heard it from the sheriff yesterday about what places like Monroe County and others, what they're dealing with. And here, of course, like we saw recently in the news, what we're dealing with. It's almost become, as former President Trump said at that bodega, almost a cost of business, that you almost have to figure that in. Well, why would a business come here? Why would a big chain store, a big box store, come to New York State, or any store for that matter, if that's a part of doing business, if they have to lock up everything, which we've all seen in our own personal lives? There's another example of when they say, no, this public safety, it's all your perception because of what you're hearing in the news, but really the numbers aren't bad. Well, tell me that when I have to spend 45 minutes waiting to get a razor, or 45 minutes when I have to get some little knickknack that I needed. So again, all of this that they keep telling us, that never mind the old saying, right? Never mind your lying eyes, believe them. How did I get down this tangent? Anyway, minor details, inside baseball, insisting that what is seen in a final deal will be the same as what she announced on Monday. Ooh, she's getting a little cocky saying that. Insisting on what it's seen in a final deal will be the same as what she announced on Monday. The last two budgets we did in the exact same way. The night before, I had one of my many, many, many meetings with the two leaders, which have been always respectful and cordial. I have to say, we have really changed the culture in Albany. I said, is this the handshake? Yes, this is the handshake. And I said, we'll be talking about it tomorrow. But then we had the apparent cyber attack that targeted the state capitol's computer software that prints legislation. What a weird niche market for a cyber hack on a software program that prints legislation. Here we are in Planet. Oh, hey, this is Tom O'Mara. Again, this is from NewYorkStateOfPolitics.com. Tom O'Mara said, here we are in Planet Albany with a cyber attack on bill drafting and a budget that's 17 days late, and a governor's proclaimed agreement that is clearly not an agreement. Now, Senator Tom O'Mara, of course, we've had him on this program numerous times, ranking member of the Senate Finance Committee. He told reporters at a news conference called about this to discuss the budget. The state budget is made up of 10 separate bills. And Assemblymember Ed Raw called on legislative leaders to present all bills to be voted on as a complete package rather than a piece by piece, as been the case in the past. Wouldn't it be nice if we knew anything about the process, if it wasn't just completely behind closed doors? Wouldn't that be kind of fun to know what is being spent on that $237 billion state budget? But I guess if you're not willing to give corrections officers more than 90 days notice that they would have to move or find another job, I guess really, why should we, the taxpayer, be given any kind of leeway, any kind of time to understand what's really happening at Albany? But it is laughable. You've got a cyber attack on a very niche software program. You've got an agreement that the governor announced on Monday that is not an agreement, only in Albany, folks. And that's a great way to kick off our top of the second hour. So stay with us. I see some comments coming in, some great comments, so we'll get to as many of them as we can. But right now we do have to take a break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here at WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Looks like y'all got a lot of stuff here in your water.
You're never gonna believe it, but this can filter up to 60 different contaminants from your water.
It's all about cleaner drinking water.
Dude, that's good water.
And that's good water.
Now that's good water.
That's good water, eh?
No matter where you live, there's a Culligan water expert nearby. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
You learn that there are no shortcuts in racing or in life. So it's no surprise that there aren't any when it comes to hair loss either. One of my first attempts to deal with my own hair loss was a literal shortcut. Thankfully, my wife found Hair Club. I thought that nobody could understand how mortified I was to be losing my hair. So you can imagine how relieving it was to know that Hair Club's experts have already helped so many people with their hair loss. I was shocked that Hair Club had virtually every solution possible. If I had known about Hair Club sooner, I never would have tried any of those overhyped advertised solutions.
With over 120 locations, Hair Club is North America's largest provider of complete hair loss solutions. Whether you choose surgical, non-surgical, or restorative solutions, Hair Club has you covered.
If you're determined to get your hair back and live the life you deserve, just call Hair Club. You can get your own free personalized consultation with a hair loss expert and be on your way to the finish line in no time.
Scan the code on your screen now to schedule a free consultation and save 20% on select solutions using promo code Frankie.
Major League Baseball on Fox.
Hey, what I'm doing, hey, getting right to it. The money is talking, I'm flowing, it's coming in just how I do it. Yeah, can't stop, nah, won't stop. Yeah, it's been on live, you don't believe it, just watch.
Jaw-dropping stuff. Major League Baseball all season long on Fox.
Sorry about that. I went to go fill up my water. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking. I thought I had more time than I did. I'm your host, Frank Aiken. We have a lot of great comments. First of all, thank you for the reminder. And I have not had a chance to mention this, but many of you have been following the news about Yates County. They're advising anyone who ate food from the main deck restaurant between April 4th and April 12th to receive a free hepatitis A vaccine. That is happening today from 1 p.m. till 7 p.m. at the Yates County Office Building located at 417 Liberty Street in Penn Yan. To register for an appointment, you can visit yatescountypublichealth.org. If you need assistance with scheduling an appointment or are unable to attend our clinic, you can call, not our clinic, I got this from their website, the clinic at 315-536-5160. So thank you. And if you miss that, feel free to text me and I can get you all the information if that's something that you're looking at. All right, let's go through some other comments from viewers. Thank you for all these comments. The impeachment of Mayorkas was always going nowhere, and everyone involved knew that. At least the Republicans got the impeachment through, and the intentionally open border was highlighted. My takeaways from the ordeal was, even in an election year, with a clear danger to the country, all the Republicans still couldn't stick together. Yes, I mean, in the Senate, Lisa Murkowski, I don't even know if she's considered Republican anymore. Didn't she recently come out and say, I don't even know if I consider myself Republican? But yes, they can't stick together. And there's a really good piece, Ken, and thank you for that comment. And I think the headline's a little inflammatory, but I think the point is good. And it's by Liz Peek that Marjorie, well, I don't even like saying it because I think it's kind of low for what the article is actually saying. But Marjorie Taylor Greene is an idiot. She is trying to wreck the GOP. Now, I don't know what you think about what she's saying there, and I'm going to tell you more about this in a little bit. I'm not jumping around here just to highlight your point, Ken. And I'm not saying you're saying that, Ken. I'm just saying that the GOP seems to be doing as much as it can to get in their own way. So, yes, we couldn't work together, and we did okay when it came to the impeachment part of that. But, yes, it does seem like very often we do not stick together as Republicans, while we see as Republicans, we do not stick together. As Democrats, we always see that rallying around the troops, the circling the wagons. It's why I think you're seeing the weakening of their position on Israel. For Chuck Schumer to come out and call for Netanyahu, an election ousting Netanyahu, and to now we saw what Pelosi had to say. This is all coming at about the same time where the talking points must have been coming out and saying we've got to change our tune to help the president and help our re-election chances. Continuing with comments. Other comments, so many. New York and California are the test beds for the Democrats. They throw ideas at the population and see what causes the most inflammatory conditions. I will say my theory has always been, and here in New York, that if California does something, we look at it and say, okay, we've got to do it. Even though it's failed, we got to do it, and we probably got to make it worse. And I think California does that a little bit on some of our positions in New York, but sometimes we do such a bad job that even California says, whoa, 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 let's take a step back. But yes, it always does seem like we try to emulate what California is doing in their failed systems. Another comment from another viewer. Hey, Frank. Hi. Let's contact our credit card companies. Let them know we need to keep extending when our payments are due. Let's see how that goes over. Yes, that's a great point. We'll say, we just need another extender. I'll call you back on Tuesday. We'll extend that extender. It'll just be 17 days late with no end in sight. And then we can call the credit card company and say, no, we made an agreement. Everything's good. And then we can blame a cyber attack. The cyber attack thing is that's just interesting to me. Hochul said we have to go back to the more antiquated system we've had in place from 1994 because they were using, and leave it to politicians, that they got some software program to help write legislation. I mean, heaven forbid you don't have people for that. At the very least, you can't do that. Isn't that what the job entails? But representatives from the state legislature seemed less concerned that the attack would be disruptive, stressing the staff were continuing to work with both houses even as they sought to resolve the issue. Nothing is delayed, said Mike Weiland, a spokesman for the Democrat majority in the state assembly. They said that there will be an ongoing investigation. Sanya Gold, I don't want to keep talking about this. I know. A professor of information security and digital forensics at the University of Albany said that there are often two motivations behind these kinds of attacks. Disruptors just looking to cause chaos, or nation states that wish to directly interfere in the democratic process. The question is, who is attacking them and why, and what extent of the damage is. And what I can see, this was designed just to pull them offline and delay this process. That's why you almost wonder if, I won't speculate. Was it just a way to say, well, just like Easter was the first excuse of why they couldn't make it, and then it was a solar eclipse, and then now a cyber attack? They do say the chaos agents could have been scanning any system for any vulnerability to exploit, while a nation state like China, Russia, or Iran would have specifically targeted New York and waited for a weakness to arise before capitalizing on it. It always goes back to China, Russia, and Iran, doesn't it? Blair Horner said, this is like the Albany game of Clue. It could be anyone who doesn't like how the budget is going, or it could be Russia. Anyway, enough about the cyber attack. Just another part of the circus in Albany. Sorry, I was reading another comment. But I shouldn't do that live on the air. One last weird thing about New York State, and then we're going to move along here. This will make you feel bad. Starving New York lawmakers resort to eating corn dogs amid late budget pay freeze. Now, before this makes you mad, the New York Post did this, and in my opinion, in a way to highlight the absurdity of so many things in Albany. Albany Poles, who are more than 2 weeks late in putting on the state budget, and therefore about to miss a second paycheck, were so famished Wednesday, they resorted to eating carnival food instead of their usual fancy fare. State senators and assembly members who might normally be chowing down on a $470 steak down the street had to stoop to the level of accepting Sonic corn dogs graciously handed out by the New York Post from its office in the Capitol. So again, this is the New York Post doing this piece, but it's true. The pictures are there. Can you imagine that's what we're living on? Corn dogs? Said Assemblyman Tony Simone as he chuckled. In 1998, then Governor George Pataki, the last Republican elected to statewide office, demanded legislators agree to temporarily forego their pay while the state budget was late. Despite Pataki's best intention, some of Albany's elected fat cats are now so loaded that one or two missed paychecks don't seem to be a big deal to them. The sign that the Post put up even said free corn dogs for starving lawmakers. No, they're not vegan. Yes, one assemblywoman asked if they were vegan and then turned them down when they were not. I'm not going to go through all their pay and we've been through that before. I just think it's a clever way to highlight to really the cost of Albany for all of us taxpayers. So enough on that. We've got to take a short break, right? Oh my goodness, yes, we should have taken a short break quite some time ago. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking.
If you're on supplemental oxygen, heavy and awkward tanks are a burden. Now you can leave home and leave the tanks behind with Inogen One, the portable oxygen concentrator you can take almost anywhere.
With this little device, now I'm able to do the things that I've always loved. I just press the button here, and there's my oxygen.
The Inogen One is so small and light, you're free to leave the house without the hassles of an oxygen tank.
I could play golf again. I could go grocery shopping. I'm free again.
With the Inogen, I can handle my own oxygen. I can carry my own oxygen. I go anywhere with this. Look how small it is.
And right now, you can try an Inogen One for 30 days completely risk-free. Give us a call right now. If you qualify, we'll send you an Inogen system to use for 30 days completely risk-free. Your insurance may even cover your new Inogen One system.
If you're on oxygen, you need to be using an Inogen.
Call 1-800-929-7290. Again, that's 1-800-929-7290.
The Fox Sports app isn't just any sports app. It's your sports app.
For the touchdown!
Yeah, yours. Your teams. Your highlights. Your scores. Your stories. Just choose your favorites to get more of what you want.
To the end zone!
And of course, stream your teams live. The best part is free with your pay TV subscription.
Touchdown!
Grab your Fox Sports app today.
Diamondback rattlesnake.
It's in the name. Name a low-calorie food you might make your edible underwear out of.
Salmon.
Watch it weeknights. Share it the next day.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
Sharing the fun. Weeknights on Family Feud.
7 and 7:30 on Big Fox.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Aiken. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. A couple comments from viewers. To the viewer who had some choice words for Chuck Schumer. I do not disagree with what you said, but you're right. I will not say it on the air. And it's not that... it's because I can't if I want to continue with this job. The FCC would frown upon me saying that about Chuck Schumer, but I appreciate the comment. Another comment. I personally don't claim to be any type of expert when it comes to politics. When the topic does come up in conversation, it starts heading towards a disagreement. I kind of step back and say, how bad do things have to get before it affects you? It usually slows the escalation and makes both sides think, if only for a minute. I will tell you, it is amazing how politics does appear everywhere now. Every year there's and it's so cliche and so tedious now, but how to talk to your uncle about the elections during Thanksgiving and these type of things. The anger, the divide is there. There's no divide. There is no denying it at this point. Hey, RFK Jr. I don't think we brought him up in the last couple days. I saw... What was I watching? Maybe it's because I talk about him on this program. Something came up and I saw an ad for him. Might have been YouTube. Saw an ad for him and kind of introducing his VP. Biden's got to be scared. Now, remember, I've had this statement for a long time. I made this statement for a long time. That they originally told us he's going to take away so many votes from Trump. And I thought, why do people that never want to see us win tell us ways to protect ourselves and help ourselves? Well, they start to see the writing on the wall, and it does affect Biden. The votes come from Biden if you're an RFK supporter, most likely. That's not going to be the case 100% of the time. But they're getting really nervous. So now we had a couple months, St. Patrick's Day is right around then, where Biden invited all the Kennedys over to the White House for a celebration, except for RFK Jr. Well, President Joe Biden will receive the formal endorsement of more than a dozen members of the extended Kennedy family on Thursday, according to the Biden campaign, aiming to harness the legacy of a storied Democratic family while underscoring their near universal rejection of a third-party challenge mounted by one of their own, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. The broader Kennedy family has mostly shunned RFK Jr.'s campaign, calling it dangerous, even as the candidate himself looks to capitalize on his last name in family history. Capitalize on his, like Kennedy has never capitalized on his last name. What a weird way for CNN to put that. Yeah, there's a lot of anger out there for Mr. Kennedy. I never thought we'd see a day where the media would treat a Kennedy like this. I really didn't. But Thursday's event in Philadelphia nonetheless highlights the threat Kennedy poses to Biden as he seeks to win re-election in a race where even a low-performing third-party candidate could act as a spoiler. I don't think we need to go through all of this. It's just going to be a lot of Kennedys. It's going to be the worst family reunion for RFK Jr., where all of his family members are getting together without him and talking bad about him. I mean, it really is. They are not, the Kennedys and obviously the Bidens, not very happy with RFK Jr. So that's one of the ways they're trying to combat him, by having all the other Kennedys endorse Biden. We'll see if that works. I've got a few things here about the attacks on Trump by the media. How am I doing on time? I don't want to get into that quite yet, because I want to pose the question for you. I mentioned it earlier because Mike Johnson, there's some talks of, because of the foreign aid bills, some Republicans are upset. Of course, we had Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has been pushing for his ouster. House Republicans are prepared to unveil the much-anticipated foreign aid bill. The timing set up weekend votes on bills for foreign aid, national security, and the southern border, and comes as members of both parties are openly considering a discharge petition that will force the House to vote on the Senate-passed aid bill. Sources close to Johnson said he isn't afraid of a potential motion to vacate that would try to oust him from this role. A separate source said they expect more Republicans to join Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massie in their motion to vacate. Greene immediately criticized Johnson's plan, calling him seriously out of step with Republicans by continuing to pass bills dependent on Democrats. Now, Johnson laid out the plan in a text to members, saying it came after significant member feedback and discussion. He said the text of 3 separate bills aiding Israel, Taiwan, and Ukraine, the latter of which will be structured as a loan and including accountability measures, will be posted shortly. A 4th bill that pulls together measures to force a sale of TikTok, sell off seized Russian assets, and sanction and confront Russia, China, and Iran will be posted later today. Those 4 bills will be moved together procedurally, while another bill with core components of Republicans' Trump-era border policy bill will be introduced separately, he said. Johnson's first hurdle will be on the vote to advance the bill to the floor, as they currently don't have the GOP votes to pass it, according to Axios. So I know that was all a little wonky. The reason I brought that up before we go to break, what did you think? And again, I just don't think the title is that great, but that Marjorie Taylor Greene, according to Liz Peek, is trying to wreck the GOP. We're going to talk about that when we come back. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Isn't your wellness important? Don't you want more energy? Now's the best time to make every day better and relieve those achy muscles and pains than with a Hesselson's Hot Tub. Hesselson's has hot tubs in stock and available for immediate delivery with unbelievable savings. Hesselson's offers 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Hesselson's carries the only hot tub brand in the industry with the exclusive freshwater salt system that is eco-friendly and easy to use and only enhances your hot tubbing experience. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's Hot Tub. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Tired of that pan that always sticks? It's so scratched and worn, you can't cook in it.
Hi, Chef Daniel Green here with my new hammered pans from Gotham Steel. This complete 9-piece set is guaranteed to beautify your kitchen like never before. Hammered pans are ultra non-stick and they're even oven safe up to 500 degrees. So bake homemade chicken pot pie or this whole chicken dinner. Use metal beaters straight in the pan for a gourmet souffle that slips right out. Plus the entire set is dishwasher safe and PFOA free.
Get the full 9-piece Gotham Steel hammered set for just 5 payments of $49.99, and we'll even ship it to you free. But order now and we'll drop 1 payment. That's just 4 payments of $49.99. Plus, we'll include this free steamer and strainer, and our 5-piece bakeware set with every pan you'll ever need to make delicious breads, cakes, and desserts. That's a huge 15-piece set with free shipping. Call or click now.
Call 1-800-608-1538 or go to buyhammered.com.
Getting aerial video for a commercial used to be extremely expensive, but not anymore. WYDC TV Big Fox now offers the Twin Tiers amazing aerial video for your business. We do it with our state-of-the-art drone and commercially licensed aerial pilot. Beautiful HD aerial video and pictures custom-made for your commercial. Call or email now to advertise on Big Fox TV and let everyone see your business in a whole new way.
Sheldon and Missy face off in...
Why can't we watch DuckTales? Because we don't learn anything.
Book Smarts versus Street Smarts.
Is it working? Are you feeling motivated? Very.
It's the battle of twins.
Life is so confusing. I always hoped it would be easier for me when I grew up. It's gonna be all right. You were faking. Bazinga.
Young Sheldon.
Weeknights at 6:30 on Big Fox.
And we are back with Frankie Speaking here on Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Question from a viewer. Is there someone running against him? I'm assuming that's Chuck Schumer. No, Chuck Schumer's not up for re-election. He won back in 2022. So what that means is Chuck Schumer will be up for re-election. Someone can run against him in the year 2029. Now, I will say Senator Gillibrand is up for re-election this year. There are right now 3 Republicans vying to face her. I have not heard about any petition challenge. I mean, I know there was petition challenges mounted to 2 of the candidates, but I don't know where that's at currently. So there will be a Republican primary for Senate, most likely, and then that person will go on to face Senator Gillibrand. So no, Chuck Schumer, though, is not up again until 2029. So the Liz Peek's point is, it's high time someone in the Republican Party told Marjorie Taylor Greene to turn all that bombastic, self-serving showmanship and drama queen energy on Democrats and stop trying to defeat her own party. Do you agree with this or disagree? I know her name's been thrown around a lot, even some suggesting for VP. So I'm bringing this question up as more of a mental mind game of where you stand on Marjorie Taylor Greene, because I think she is someone that divides the party. I don't want to go, well, you know some of the things she's done. Currently, she is threatening to oust Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson. The Louisiana representative with a 5-vote majority in the House is attempting to keep his caucus intact as he navigates treacherous issues, including funding Ukraine. And we know all that. To be sure, not all Republicans approve of spending billions more to arm Ukraine, especially since our own border remains wide open. Many in the GOP wanted Johnson to demand border enforcement in exchange for the support in Ukraine. Ukraine is one of the most corrupt countries in the world, which is perhaps why Hunter Biden was so richly employed there. And it's not clear that Americans want to spend billions to fight Putin towards that end. There is almost certainly inadequate oversight, as I wrote earlier in the war. This is Liz Peek. Nonetheless, countering Russia's power-mad dictator is the right thing to do. Putin's ambitions will not stop at Ukraine. The next target might well be a NATO ally, which would put U.S. boots on the ground. Though the war has taken a terrible toll, we can go through all that. It needs funding. As to FISA, Republicans are very wary of allowing warrantless surveillance, and rightly so. The law has been abused in the past and is most hated today for having enabled surveillance of the Trump campaign by Hillary Clinton's people. Nonetheless, it was not that long ago that the U.S. came under attack by Islamic terrorists, Given the millions who have entered the country illegally since Biden became president, hundreds of whom are on the terror watch list, it is imperative that we up our vigilance against terrorism, not dumb it down. Mike Johnson opposed the renewal in the past, asked why he changed his mind. He said that having received a classified briefing on the issue, he has changed his mind. I believe him. Yeah, and as we talk about, as we've talked about so often in the past with that, is that, sorry, I got distracted there. A lot of noises going. I forgot what we talked about in the past. Green, who was elected by a total of, and we're getting comments in, so thank you. And that's why I got distracted, but thank you. Our country is facing enormous challenges, Liz Peek said. Many the result of the wrong-headed and dangerous policies of the Biden White House. If Biden wins 4 more years in the Oval Office, we'll be forced to travel even further down the road towards erratic and unreliable green energy. And then we talk about more expensive domestic oil, gas resources go to waste. If Democrats win control of Congress, which Ms. Green may well facilitate, they will likely push through tax increases that will undermine investment and productivity, thereby depressing wage increases and opening the door to even more wasteful spending. So anyway, we go through all this. What Liz Peek is saying is this is all the bad things that, not all, but many of the bad things that could happen if we lose the House, if we lose the Senate, if we lose the White House. The internal squabbles of the party need to stop, is her point, and this is the question. If Marjorie Taylor Greene and others want to oppose aid to Ukraine or the FISA bill, they can vote against it. That's how democracy works. The future of the U.S. is on the line. Former President Trump, who very much wants to kick Biden out of office, knows how dangerous the tumult in the House can be. He recently met with Mike Johnson of Florida and gave him an important and well-deserved vote of confidence. I stand with the Speaker, Trump declared. He also said he thinks Johnson is doing a very good job. He's doing about as good as you're going to do. My message for Marjorie Taylor Greene, borrowing from Hillary Clinton, get over yourself. The mission today is to elect Donald Trump. That's from Liz Peek. That's not me. I wanted to hear your position. I see someone commenting, Marjorie Taylor Greene is part of the solution, not part of the problem with government. She is awake, not woke. She is being outspoken to rise above the radical left noise. So those are the comments we have so far. I'd love to hear your opinion on it because she is kind of a polarizing figure. But we have other issues to get to as well. So let me take a short break, and then we will be back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Friends have been telling friends about Colonial Penn Guaranteed Acceptance Whole Life Insurance for more than 50 years. And with good reason. If you're between the age of 50 and 85, it's a sure thing. Your acceptance is guaranteed because full benefits are not paid in the first 2 years. And the price? Options start at $9.95 a month, less than 35 cents a day. With Colonial Penn, your rate is another sure thing. It will never increase. And you should know this coverage can last a lifetime.
Call today, 1-800-475-1050.
It's a new season of Sherry.
Having a good time has always been my #1 goal. I tend to get crazy. At my age, I should not be jumping up and down like that. And if you don't know what I mean, ask your mama. The young ones, y'all like, we don't know what you're talking about. But I promise you, in 30 years, you will.
It's the best time in daytime.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. on Big Fox.
Friends have been telling friends about Colonial Penn Guaranteed Acceptance Whole Life Insurance for more than 50 years. And with good reason. If you're between the age of 50 and 85, it's a sure thing. Your acceptance is guaranteed because full benefits are not paid in the first 2 years. And the price? Options start at $9.95 a month, less than 35 cents a day. With Colonial Penn, your rate is another sure thing. It will never increase. And you should know this coverage can last a lifetime.
Call today, 1-800-475-1050.
We are back. What a beautiful view of Market Street as we broadcast live from the Hesselson's studio. Okay, did you see this report that came out that White House staffers, and what is like the most pathetic, almost nerdy, cringeworthy thing to say? White House staffers are referring to Trump as Hitler pig. As Mark Theisen, who used to work for George W., said, White House nickname for Trump is Hitler pig. How humorless and pathetic is that? I agree. It seems like it's someone who thought they were being shocking and funny and were not funny at all. And they were walking around kind of nerdy thinking that this is cool. Trump campaign advisor Chris LaCivita said Politico thinks this is funny. It's actually more a representation of what a rag they've become, meaning Politico, and the level of blank, we'll say garbage, that works in the White House. But the reason I bring that up is because you hear about that in the White House. You hear the story I brought to you the other day from Katie Couric slamming MAGA voters, suggesting that it was driven by anti-intellectualism and that they're jealous and resentful. And as I've said numerous times, this is from the Post editorial board. I feel like they're watching Frankly Speaking because we said this a few days ago. But haven't they learned anything since Hillary's similar comments bombed 8 years ago? And that's the deplorables comment that I mentioned to you the other day. Americans responded at the polls when she said that. Indeed, it was precisely this kind of arrogant, we're smart, you're dumb elitism that happened to get Trump elected. The media and establishment Democrats plainly think of themselves as the erudite adults in the room, while Republicans are backward, hateful, uneducated rednecks. Have they looked at the polls lately? Black and Latino voters are fleeing to Trump, as are young voters. Demographics that Democrats used to have locked down tight. These are not exactly the caricatures of MAGA supporters liberals imagine. They can pretend Trump voters are all driven by jealousy and resentment, or they can look at the facts. The border crisis has exploded. Grocery prices are sky high. War seems to be everywhere, and crime has been making blue cities unlivable. What a great point. You know, some of the arguments that the Trump supporters will say that under Trump we had peace and prosperity. You look at what we have now, and it is. There's a lot of people that you talk to on the street that say, I don't like Trump. I don't like the weaponization of the justice system against him. I don't like the deep state. But I really also don't like where I'm at personally, because at the end of the day, for most voters, it's about them personally. And they can tell us that inflation's not a problem, that Bidenomics is working, but we see it. We see what's happening at the border. So let me read that line again, because I think it's a really good point. They can pretend Trump voters are all driven by jealousy and resentment, or they can look at the facts. The border crisis has exploded. Grocery prices are sky high. War seems to be everywhere, and crime has been making blue cities unlivable. Voters know who to blame for this. And hint, it ain't Trump. They spent the pandemic listening to Democrats shriek, trust the experts. Yet it soon became clear most high-profile experts had no idea what they were talking about. Distrusting Democrats who insist you follow the science, their science, to grab power is not anti-intellectualism. Trump, by contrast, embraced average Joes, tired of the status quo, and made clear he was proud to be associated with them. Democrats can learn what's really driving these voters, or they can keep insulting them. Trump will no doubt thank them in November if they choose the latter. And it also speaks, as I mentioned yesterday on the show, it speaks to the bubble in media. Because to Katie Couric, no one in her life voted for Trump. I say that pretty confidently. It's just like when we learned that no one voted Republican in NPR. Yeah, it's just a larger picture of what we're dealing with when it comes to the media. So she believes it's the people, maybe they don't even own a TV, that are supporting Trump. They don't learn their lesson. It's a very cocky attitude that they can insult the voters. Hillary Clinton did it. Joe Biden's done it, where they can insult the voters and just get away with it. They don't learn their lesson. All right, we got to take another short break, and we'll finish up. Well, yes. Yeah, let's do that. Let's take, sorry to say that so weird. We got a bunch of, wait a minute. Before we have one other, I hate to jump around because I have another piece kind of in that vein. Did you see, though, yesterday that Biden claimed that his uncle, who vanished, crashed in the area of New Guinea with cannibals? Now, the military tells a different story, but I guess this is a story he's told before. He talked about his uncle. They tell me when he was a kid, he says here, that he flew those single-engine planes as reconnaissance, I have trouble with that word, over war zones, and he got shot down in New Guinea. They never found the body because there were a lot of cannibals, for real, in that part of New Guinea. Now, the Defense POW MIA accounting agency has a different record of what happened, that he actually did not crash there. For unknown reasons, the plane was forced to ditch in the ocean off the north coast of New Guinea. The report reads, both engines failed at low altitude and the aircraft's nose hit the water. Anyway, just a weird story. I saw that. I didn't want to completely run out of time. We got to take a break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on Big Fox. This is our last break before we wrap up this hour.
What's up, guys? What I'm about to show you is going to change the way you shave your head forever.
You can shave your head in 90 seconds or less.
With no cuts or nicks. It's 100% waterproof.
It even works in the shower.
Introducing Remington's Balder Boss. With increased flex and 5 dual-track floating head design, get over 60% more head coverage for a faster, closer shave and skin-close results.
No nicks, no scrapes. Fit in the palm of my hand, and the results were amazing.
Shave in the shower or with any foam or gel. With Japanese-grade steel blades, plow through the thickest of hair. Anytime, anywhere. There's even a pop-up trimmer to complete your perfect groove. Now, you can try the Remington Balder Boss in your home for 30 days for just $14.99. Complete with a 5-year limited warranty and 100% satisfaction guarantee. You can also get our ear, nose, and brow trimmer free. Just pay separate processing and handling.
Give it a try. You won't be disappointed.
Order your Balder Boss now.
Name something with a diamond in it.
Diamondback rattlesnake.
It's in the name. Name a low-calorie food you might make your edible underwear out of.
Salmon.
Watch it weeknights. Share it the next day.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
Share in the fun. Weeknights on Family Feud.
7 and 7:30 on Big Fox.
We are back with Frankly Speaking here on Big Fox. We've got a lot of comments from viewers as we wrap up today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Frank, you are at the front lines in upstate New York. Thank you, and thank your station for having you on. Well, that's so nice of you to say. I'd also say thank you to all of our wonderful advertisers. And if you want to advertise on the program, you can contact me at the number on the bottom of the screen. We'd love to have you be a part of it because of all of our loyal viewers. God bless the rednecks. So never have an elite neighbor. That's a good point. That is true. But it goes to show you that Katie Couric and so many, they truly believe in the media and in many, especially academia, and not especially as with academia, they do just believe that we're all rubes. And that's a mindset they go into. And that's why it's very easy for them to hate, which we see so often in the news, to get that hate going because they're smarter than you. In their mind, they're smarter than you. How dare you have any say in who gets to be president? Hence the reason why they tried to take Trump off the ballot. Next comment. Marjorie Taylor Greene seems to be auditioning for the role of VP. If she continues with pushing her vacate motion, she could be responsible for losing the Republican control of the House before the election. Yeah, I know, Ken. I'm not overly happy with the vacate motion. I will say that if you don't, as Liz Peek said, if you don't like the bills that Mike Johnson is proposing, vote against them. Don't vote against the speaker. I mean, you could see Hakeem Jeffries end up being speaker when it's all said and done. I mean, this is, and I can't remember who said it, but I think it's a good point. The Republicans have to go back to their constituents and say, okay, we had the majority, this is what we've done. And right now, there's not a lot to show for that. And I know it's a slim majority. I'm just saying, we've got bigger fish to fry. Like Liz Peek said, the goal of the Republicans should be to get Trump elected. I would say, in this case, keep the House, hopefully. But people tune into this, and the media eats it up, and they love to show the infighting. And there's article after article about Mike Johnson. I mean, who was it that said, Mike Johnson, doing the right thing may cost the speaker his gavel. Anyway. Before we go, I wanted to mention this because it did. Miranda Devine normally does a great job at the New York Post, and she said, deranged get Trump Democrats only boost ex-president with their constant attacks and insults, like Katie Couric, like at the White House calling him Hitler pig or whatever it was. The get Trump Democrats are beside themselves with glee about the former president being stuck in a Manhattan courtroom. They have taken to calling Donald Trump Hitler pig in emails and text messages among White House staff, campaign aides, and other Democrats close to the administration. So much for Joe Biden bringing civility back to politics. And also, isn't it frustrating to think about the court cases that they are doing this? Bragg is doing this, this unprecedented case, just because they don't like Trump. the weaponization of the justice system. I've got to believe that resonates with a lot of people who may not normally vote for Trump as well, seeing the powers that be trying to choose who you could pick for president or not. That's as believable as his other tall tales, meaning Biden bringing back civility to politics, that he stopped inflation and never spoke to his son about overseas business dealings. Behind closed doors, the president calls Trump names all the time that I can't repeat on the air. It must infuriate Biden that all the lawfare that his DOJ and other Democrat prosecutors have flung at Trump has succeeded so far only in turning public sympathy towards the former president and giving him constant media presence. Trump seems to have a knack for turning legal lemons into pulling lemonade. Of all the ones to go first trial, Alvin Bragg's hush money case is the feeblest and most embarrassing. For Trump Democrats, we're almost out of time, persecutors, as well as for Trump himself, as it involves allegations, which he denies, that he had an affair and that his then lawyer paid her off before the 2016 election. Bragg has been doing his best to make a silk purse out of a sow's ear by trying to recast the case as being about election interference, in which Trump sought to keep voters in the dark about damaging information, which is really interesting. So how many lawsuits will come up about keeping voters in the dark about the Hunter Biden laptop? So Miranda Devine goes on, and I just don't have time to get to all of it. Oh, here's another comment. I'm not happy with Marjorie Taylor Greene trying to oust the speaker. I'm hoping she'll back off a little, but when she does, she will lose her soapbox. I think you're right there. I think a lot of it is about the soapbox, for better, for worse, okay? And I think it is about getting, this sounds, I'm not wording this in a negative way, but getting the attention for her issues. I get that. But I think this only hurts in the long run. Anyway, back to what Miranda Devine had to say. She goes through and talks all about Bragg and the other people that are involved in this. It's a lengthy piece. It's about 4 pages. But she said Bragg is a cog in the Democratic attack machine. That's the real election interference. Yes, the irony of bringing him up on election interference, essentially, while you are interfering with the election. But it's the same as when they say, we've got to stop Trump because he's a threat to democracy, so we will be a threat to democracy and take him off the ballot. Hey, did you see, by the way, as we wrap up? Wow, we really need to wrap up. Trump met with the Polish president in New York City. He's getting a lot of work done outside of the courtroom, isn't he? Former President Trump on Wednesday met with the Polish president in Manhattan, touting his close personal relationship with the NATO nation leader who has called, I almost pushed the wrong button. Sorry, folks. Pushed the wrong button. Trying to get a last-minute wave in. The two men discussed Russia's war in Ukraine, the conflict with Israel in the Middle East, and many other topics having to do with getting to world peace. He's doing a fantastic job, Trump said, referring to him as my friend. We may have to do it again, the former president said. That is it. We'll have a lot more to talk about tomorrow. Boy, this week's going fast. Thank you to all the comments, all the nice comments, all the back and forth conversation. I love that. That's why I asked the Marjorie Taylor Greene question, because I know, not to try to divide or get people worked up, I'd love to hear what you have to say about the issues that are important in today's political realm and news realm. So thank you again for joining us. Thank you for being a part of it. And please join me tomorrow morning starting at 6 a.m. for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Something with a diamond in it.
Diamondback rattlesnake.
It's in the name. Name a low-calorie food you might make your edible underwear out of.
Salmon.
Watch it weeknights. Share it the next day.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
Share in the fun. Weeknights on Family Feud.